I'm Everett Gunther, and this is Ultra Dynamic Sky. Ultra Dynamic Sky is a flexible and easy-to-use sky and weather system for the Unreal Engine, providing dynamic clouds, time of day, moon, stars, weather effects, and more for your project in minutes. Its features include customizable dynamic clouds. You can choose from multiple modes including 3D volumetric clouds, 2D dynamic clouds, and static clouds. Day and night animation creates a complete dynamic time of day experience with a single click. Lights for the sun, moon, and skylight are built in, instantly adding a complete lighting solution to your scene. Stars and moon rendering for vibrant, detailed night skies. Cloud shadows cast by both the sun and moon lights. Aurora effects can be enabled at night, either a simple 2D effect to be used alongside clouds, or a full volumetric aurora which replaces clouds. Simulation features allow calculating sun, moon, and stars orientations using real-world coordinates with the date and time. And there are hundreds of exposed settings to customize the look and behavior of the entire system to suit your project. But Ultra Dynamic Sky isn't just a sky, it also comes with Ultra Dynamic Weather included. Ultra Dynamic Weather is a fully featured weather blueprint which integrates directly with the sky to easily add weather effects to your project. Its features include effects for rain, lightning, snow, and dust. The weather particles have a collision system to keep them from going through scenery, and to allow things like raindrops creating splash particles. Select from settings presets like thunderstorm, light rain, and blizzard, or easily make your own. Sound effects are included for all weather conditions, and a built-in sound occlusion system can quiet them inside interiors. Material effects for making objects wet and dripping when it rains, or to get covered with snow or dust. A variety of ways to control the current weather. You can manually trigger a weather change by calling the change weather function, or you can enable random weather variation that periodically selects a new random weather state. The likelihood of each weather can be customized and can change depending on the current season. Add a weather override volume to your scene to have weather change regionally across large maps. Outline a region using the spline, and the weather state will change when the player is inside. The dynamic landscape weather effects add snow and puddles to a landscape, along with simple-to-implement interaction effects for snow trails and puddle ripples. And just like the sky, there are extensive settings to customize all of these features to fit your needs. Ultra Dynamic Sky is designed to make setup as quick and simple as possible. Here I have a scene with no sky or lighting. It's important to make sure you've cleared out any directional lights, fog, skylights, sky atmosphere, volumetric clouds, or sky spheres. To add Ultra Dynamic Sky, just navigate to the Blueprints folder and drag the actor into the scene. And that's it for basic setup. UDS will configure its built-in lights for the time of day, just like that. Before we move on, you should also take note of the README here in the Blueprints folder. Just right-click and select Run Editor Utility widget. You can search for specific topics you need help with or browse each section. There's a lot of additional information here that this quick video won't be touching on. Also, keep in mind that just about every setting on UDS has a tooltip, so if you need to know what something does, just hover it for an explanation. Alright, let's take a look at the settings on Ultra Dynamic Sky. Basic controls is where you can adjust things like the time of day and cloud coverage. Also take note of Sky Mode and Color Mode. Sky Mode determines what kind of clouds the sky will use, if any. It's where you can choose from volumetric clouds, 2D dynamic clouds, static clouds, volumetric aurora, or no clouds. Color Mode determines where the sky and lighting colors come from. By default, they use Unreal's Sky Atmosphere system, but you can change to Simplified Color to make color more directly adjustable. The Animate Time of Day category is where you can start a day-night cycle when the level is played. You can adjust day length and night length to determine how fast the cycle goes. The Volumetric Clouds category is where you can adjust everything about the appearance of the volumetric clouds. A key setting here is Volumetric Cloud Rendering Mode. By default, this is set to background-only clouds, which prioritizes fidelity, but the clouds will always be rendered behind objects. If you need them to obscure objects, or if you're going to bring the camera up into the cloud layer, you should change to one of the modes called Clouds Render Over Opaque Objects. The 2D Dynamic Clouds category is similar, but for adjusting the appearance of the 2D clouds, if you have that sky mode selected. Cloud Movement is where you can adjust the speed and direction of the clouds. Note that if you're also using ultradynamic weather, cloud speed and direction will be set using the current wind. In the Cloud Shadows category, you can adjust the intensity and softness of the cloud shadows cast onto the scene. The Cloud Wisps category controls the subtle static layer of high-altitude clouds. You can adjust it or change the texture it uses here. The Simulation category is where you can enable sun, moon, and stars which are oriented using latitude and longitude coordinates, as well as the date, time, and time zone. In the Sun category, you can adjust the appearance of the sun disk as well as settings for the sun light, like its mobility, intensity, and color. You can also manually position the sun from here if you want, by checking Manually Position Sun Target. With that enabled, just select the Sun Target widget and move it around to reposition the sun. The Moon category is much like the Sun category, but with options for things like moon phase or a custom moon texture. In the Skylight category, an important setting is the Skylight mode. By default, the Skylight mode is capture-based, with real-time capture enabled. You can change to modes which dynamically tint a static cube map texture or a simple custom cube map. There are categories beneath for each Skylight mode's specific settings. In the Exposure category, you can adjust or disable the exposure settings applied by UDS. The settings apply an exposure compensation curve and allow adjusting exposure bias with time or weather. The Fog Color and Fog Density categories have settings to customize the color and density of the height fog and how it changes with time and weather. The Dust category can affect the height fog to fill the air with dust of an adjustable color. This is used by ultradynamic weather for its dust effects. The Sky Atmosphere category exposes settings on the Sky Atmosphere component, which are controlled by time or weather. These are only used if the color mode on UDS is set to Sky Atmosphere. Similarly, the Simplified Color category is used only with the Simplified Color mode. The settings here determine the sky and lighting colors, as well as cloud colors for 2D and static clouds. In the Light Shafts category, you can enable and adjust the light shaft bloom effects for the sun and moon lights. The Lens Flare category is where you can add an optical lens flare to the sun. In the Stars category, you can adjust the intensity and color of the stars, and apply your own custom star textures. The Sky Glow category can add light to the sky irrespective of the sun or moon. Night Sky Glow adds a soft glow of starlight to night skies. Light pollution lights up the night sky from below and limits the visibility of the stars. The Aurora category is where you can enable the 2D aurora effect, or you can use the same settings to adjust the look of the volumetric aurora. The Interior Adjustments category can allow some settings for things like fog and lighting to be adjusted when the camera is inside an interior. For example, I can use these adjustments to make volumetric fog rays more exaggerated when inside the interior. To set up ultradynamic weather, first make sure your scene has ultradynamic sky. Then just drag the actor into the scene. It will hook itself up to UDS and you should see it start raining by default. You can change the weather by selecting one of these presets in Basic Controls. There's partly cloudy, overcast, foggy, light snow, blizzard, thunderstorm, dust storm, and more. But if you want to create your own, you can, by duplicating the existing ones in the Weather Presets folder and changing their settings. If no preset is selected for weather, the system will use the manual weather state, defined here in the category below. Next are the categories for adjusting the rain, snow, and dust particles, as well as shared settings used by all three. You can set how many particles will spawn, their size, their color, and more. The season can either be set using the date on UDS, or left unset to be controlled manually. The season variable itself is a float from 0 to 4, starting with spring. In the Random Weather Variation category, you can enable random variation and customize its behavior. The way the random weather variation works is by periodically choosing a new random weather and transitioning to it. The probability of each weather is determined based on the current season using these probability maps. In each map is all of the weather presets that can be chosen and a value of probability for each. The Material Effects category is where you can control how the material effects change with weather. If Material Effects Take Time to Change is enabled, the system uses these values below, like time for materials to gather snow and time for snow to melt. The values are all in seconds. In the Wind Debris category, you can enable an additional particle effect which adds debris particles to the air when the wind is high. The Lightning category has settings to adjust both the visible bolts of lightning and the obscured lightning which softly lights up the clouds. In the Sound Effects category, you can toggle each individual sound and adjust their volume levels. Sound Occlusion is where you can disable or adjust the system which attenuates the weather sounds inside interiors. You can adjust the amount of that attenuation and the settings for what collision will affect the occlusion. The Dynamic Landscape Weather Effects category contains the settings for controlling the associated material function of the same name for use on landscapes. In the Wind Direction category, you can enable a simple random variation of the wind direction. Volumetric fog particles and post-process wind fog are two ways to add additional moving fog with heavy weather. Volumetric fog particles will be used if volumetric fog is enabled on UDS, and post-process wind fog otherwise. In the Screen Droplets category, you can enable an effect which creates small rain droplets and dripping water on the camera when exposed to rain. The Rainbow category has an option to enable a rainbow when lighting conditions are right, based on a threshold of rain or fog. The Temperature category controls the output of the function getCurrentTemperature. Temperature is derived from season, time of day, and weather using the values here in this category. In Wind Actor, you can select a wind directional source actor to be controlled using UDW's current wind intensity and direction. Lastly, let's go over how to add weather effects to a material. Here I am in a rainy scene with a simple example landscape and a static mesh, and I want both materials to have weather effects for wetness. Let's start with the static mesh. I'll open the material it's using and search for weather to find the included weather functions. For this static mesh, the one I want to add wetness and a dripping effect is called Wet Weather Effects. I'll hook up the inputs for the attributes this material is using: base color, roughness, and a normal map. And connect those outputs as well. I'll plug in a value of true for Apply Dripping Effect to add an effect of water dripping down the surface. And for this I'll plug a value of 1 into Mask Wetness to have the effect be applied at full strength across the whole object. Now I'll compile, and we have the material responding to the current weather, with wetness and a dripping effect down the surface. For the landscape, we'll use the function made specifically for landscapes, called Dynamic Landscape Weather Effects. Before we make the change to the material, I'll turn on Enable Dynamic Landscape Weather Effects on UDW. The setup in this material will be similar, but using the Dynamic Landscape Weather Effects function. This material is using a material attributes output, so I'll have to break the pen to get the inputs for the function. The node for that is break material attributes. Now I'll plug in the base color, metallic, specular, roughness, and normal pins. To recombine the material attributes for the output, I'll use a set material attributes node. I'll set all of the attributes to the function outputs: base color, metallic, specular, roughness, normal, world position offset, and pixel depth offset. Now I'll compile, and the ground is wet with rain with scattered puddles. As a last step, we can make it so our character's feet cause ripples in the puddles, as well as trails in snow, using the DLWE interaction component. In the character blueprint, I'll select the character mesh and add a DLWE interaction component. On the component, for its parent socket, I'll select the right foot. Then I'll move the component to the center of mass of the foot. And I'll just do the same for the left foot. Now, we have the character's feet causing interaction effects on the material. For more information about the features of UDS and UDW, remember to check out the README, and if you have any specific questions or need help with anything, please send me an email at everettgunther@gmail.com. Thanks for watching.